Look, it is completely normal for teenagers to yell at their parents. Yelling is just another form of expression of emotions. That being said, the teenagers don't have any right to yell at their parents. And you mustn't take it as a parent when a teenager yells at you for whatsoever reason it is. But the one thing that you must not do while your teenager is yelling at you or screaming or shouting, then that is to yell back. That would be one of the biggest mistakes that you would make as a parent, to yell back or shout back at your child, or scream at your child while they are frustrated and they are yelling at you. So my point is that you don't need to start a yell off with your kid. And there are actually two reasons why you shouldn't do it. The first one is that when you start yelling back at your child, the child feels that, okay, that person is on my level playing field. If that person is yelling at me, then my yelling or my shouting is working. And then perhaps I can yell louder, I can shout louder than my dad or my mom, and then they would probably listen to me, which is not the case, right? You don't want to yell at your kid so that they think that you will then listen to them, right? The second reason is that you are the parent. You are the more mature person in the room. You know when to exercise restraint over your emotions, over your anger. You must be feeling absolutely frustrated, completely devastated inside when you see your kid shouting and screaming at you in a fit of rage. But the more you shout back, that just indicates that you yourself haven't matured as a parent. So I would strongly recommend, the moment your kid starts yelling, you do not raise your voice, right? But the question that now comes up is, if you don't yell back at your kid who's obviously shouting at you and screaming at you in rage, then what do you do? I will tell you 5 really short and important and effective ways that you can kind of implement, so that you can work your way around a yelling kid. So the first one is that when your kid starts yelling, don't talk to them at that moment, right? Suppose you went into the room and you said that, okay, hey, listen, you must not do this, or I must ask you to stop doing this because it is not good for your health, or whatever it is. And then the kid starts yelling that, no, I want to do it, I really want to do it, you cannot control me. The kid just gets into a fit of rage and is throwing tantrums and is shouting at you and is screaming at you. In that case, you do not yell back, the first thing. Second, you look your kid straight in the eye with all the seriousness and you tell them, hey, if you scream and shout and talk to me like this, I'm not having a conversation with you. Tell them straight to their face, looking them dead in the eyes, and walk out the room. Don't spend even a minute in that room further. Just walk out the room and show that your kid in that fit of rage and anger is not hurting themselves. Ensure that he or she is safe, obviously, and just don't spend any minute in the room. Come out of the room, go to your room, do something, engage yourself with something else, but do not talk to them at that moment. That will send them the signal that this is not the right way of communication. This is not how you communicate, right? The second point is actually divided into 2 points. So the first point is that let them come back to you to start the conversation. Now, you got into the argument and you walked into the room, you said something, and they got really upset, they started screaming, shouting, and then you walk out the room, you let some time pass by, you let things cool down, And once things have cooled down, whether it takes 3, 6, 12, or 18 hours, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't restart the conversation. And the reason why I say that is because you, as a parent, should let the child realize that what they did was wrong. In the first step, you walked out of the room when they started shouting because you wanted to give them the signal that, hey, what you're doing is wrong. It is not acceptable. And once they have received that, once they have processed that in their mind, when they, when they cool down, then they know that, okay, if we have to take this further, then we must go back to our parent, apologize to them, or tell them that, hey, I'm sorry, you told me to not use the mobile phone for 6 hours. Please, can we negotiate the time? Can we reconsider the number of hours that I get for spending time on the mobile phone? So let them come back to you. Give them that opportunity that they feel, okay, I must have did something wrong because my father or my mother walked away. So let me just go back to them. Let me try and restart the conversation. Let me get them into a conversation and see if I can negotiate, for my own benefit. And if that happens, then that's brilliant. That means your child has understood the message, has received the message really well, and has understood that he or she is not supposed to yell at you or scream at you. So, brilliant job. If that happens, you're a very good parent. If that doesn't happen, in the scenario where your kid does not come back to you and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have screamed at you," which is, I would say, 90% of the case. Your teenager is not going to come back to you and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said this to you." I mean, it's just the way the teenage mind works. They just wouldn't feel that they have done something wrong, especially at this age. Probably when they get a bit older, they would. But anyway, so in the scenario where your kid does not come back to you, you shouldn't just, after 3 hours of the argument that you had, go back to your child and start talking about it again. I would say that give your child some time, like 6 hours, 12, 24 hours, if it's not urgent. And just do your normal thing, like just carry on with your day-to-day work, go to work and do the household chores, and let your child go to school or college or whatever it is, and let them do their thing, you do your thing. Just make sure that they're not hurting themselves, they're not doing something wrong, as you would do as a normal parent. And then don't start a conversation like just 3 or 6 hours or 12 hours after you've had the argument. After a day passes, when things have completely cooled down, when you are in a comfortable position, when your child is not in that rage anymore, then you approach your kid. You tell them that, hey, the first thing that you tell them when you restart the conversation is, hey, what you did yesterday was not acceptable. If you want to have a conversation with me, if you don't agree with me on something I say or something I tell you to do, then you must talk to me politely, like I talk to you, or like I am talking to you right now. You are not supposed to shout, scream, or yell at your parents. This is unacceptable. Look into their eyes, with dead seriousness. Tell them this and let them, process this message. Let them understand that, yes, what we did was not the good thing, or it wasn't right. Let them actually feel that. Let them, process and accept their mistake. Once you've done that, you touch the surface of the topic again. Like, for instance, if you had asked them, okay, you're not going to use your mobile phone after 8 in the evening, or you are not supposed to play PlayStation on Sundays because we want to have we want to spend some quality family time on Sunday, so you shouldn't play PlayStation. So you broach that topic again, right? When you have told them that your behavior is unacceptable, the way you shout and scream, you broach that topic again, and then you tell them, listen to me, kid. This is how it's going to be. I think, and I firmly believe that you should not be playing on your PlayStation on Sunday, because it is important for you and for us as a family to spend quality time together. Now, it can so happen like that you have explained to them everything and you broach the topic and you do it very politely, and you give them the space to understand and accept, and they still kind of get into that fit of rage again, and they start screaming and yelling at you again, and they start shouting that, no, I want to play. And they get into the same tantrums that they were throwing just about a day ago. So in that case, you shouldn't raise your voice, you shouldn't yell back again, and you should do what you did in step one, that is just to walk out. Just walk out of the room, just end the conversation there, and tell them again that, hey, I told you this is not how we talk. You are not supposed to shout or scream at me. If you want to have a conversation, talk to me nicely, politely. But this is not how we are going to have a conversation. If your kid still doesn't understand that, move out of the room and carry on with your things. Now, the question is that, now you're in a very tricky situation, right? You want your kid to understand something because you know that what your kid is doing is wrong. But how do you explain without him or her yelling at you or screaming at you? Because when they start yelling, they have obviously created a wall, a sort of division between you and themselves, that they just don't want to listen to what you're saying. And the way they create that division is by shouting at you, by screaming at you. So in that case, you should obviously not shout at them, not yell at them, and kind of move out of the room. And you should look for a time to convey your message plainly and clearly. And that is exactly that is step 3, or that is point number 3. That when your kid is not understanding or not listening to you, don't talk to him. Don't talk to them about that particular topic, right? So the thing about the conversation around the number of hours that they can spend on their mobile phone or play PlayStation, you don't talk about it for the next 2 or 3 days, right? You try to avoid that particular topic in your conversation. You carry on with your normal days. You do your thing. Your child does your child do their thing, and you try to get your child into a normal conversation, like, what do you think about the food today? Did you enjoy school today? How's your friend doing? Or what's happening with that particular project that you had started just about a few weeks ago? So try to get them into a conversation with you where they share something of their life with you without having to put up a boundary or a wall between themselves and you as a parent. So have that organic conversation where you are saying something and your kid is responding, and ensure that your kid responds. It's very important that in this normal conversation that your kid is responding to you. They're listening to you, they're responding to you. So all of this should happen, right? And once you get into the conversation, and once the conversation kind of naturally draws to an end, then you can say that, hey, buddy, look, I love you, okay? And I care for you. And I think that you should, do this. You shouldn't be spending so much time on your phone. Now, I understand that you have your friends and you want to keep, up to date with whatever it is that is going on social media. You want to be on Instagram, on Snapchat, and all these other social media applications. I understand that. But look, I'm your parent, right? I know that you want your own space and you deserve it, but you are a teenager at the end of the day, right? I care for you and I want to look out for you. There are some things which you would not be able to understand because you are at this tricky age. You wouldn't be able to understand what spending 8 hours or 6 hours in your mobile phone would do in the future. But I can understand, I can foresee, and I just want to be your guardian, and I just want to advise you that this is not right. Okay? I don't want to take your privileges away. I want you to keep your mobile phone. I want you to keep your PlayStation. But I want you to set some limits so that you stay safe, you stay protected, because I'm more concerned about you than anybody else. And I just want you to stay happy, and I want you to have a good life after teenage as well. Just try to have this conversation with your kid. Explain to them like why are you kind of telling them off for doing something, right? Or why are you telling them that you shouldn't be doing this, or why are you setting limits? It would, to some of you parents, it would seem like, why should I explain myself to my kids? Why should I justify myself to my kids? I'm their parent. I have the right to do it. So just like you as a parent feel that you have the right to set limits on your kids, to limits on how much time he spends on his mobile phone or television or whatever, in the same way, your kid feels that he or she has the right to the very things that you want to deprive them of. You want to deprive them of those things because you know that they are going to do bad, right? But they feel that they have an absolute right over that thing because they are teenage, and that's just how the teenage brain functions at this age. So talk to them about it. Tell them you love them. Tell them you express your concern for them. Don't just say you shouldn't be doing this. No, you are not supposed to do this. That's it. End of conversation. Don't end the conversation there. Express that I'm really concerned for you, and I'm bothered by the fact that you're wasting your time away in doing the things that you shouldn't be doing so much. Once you have explained that, once you have conveyed that message very clearly, they would probably understand it, and they're more likely to understand what you were saying. And now now it could so happen that even after expressing your concern, expressing your love, and expressing your emotion to your kid, they feel they get into this fit of rage again, and they start screaming again like, you don't understand, I have to do this. They get into that mode again. If that happens, then you should seek professional help. If your kid is constantly throwing tantrums, if your kid is constantly getting angry and screaming and shouting and yelling at you, even after you being very polite to them, being very reasonable with them, you should get professional help, because it's getting beyond your control, and you don't want your kid, in any sort of trouble. So get a psychologist, or a counselor, a psychological counselor at school, or a nearby clinic or something, and then have your kid talk to them and understand what is actually happening. I would say that you would only get to this point when kids yell, kids shout, especially in teenagers shout when they see their parents do it, right? So if it so happens that your kid is constantly screaming and shouting, then you must recall their childhood when they were really small. If they did a mistake, did you actually just go all out and scream at them, and then just shout at them at that particular moment, and then completely bring them to tears just by screaming and yelling at them that, why did you do this? So if you did it when 5 years ago, when they were not a teenager, when they were children, then you shouldn't be surprised that they are reacting to you this way now, because whatever happens in teenage is the result of how you treated the child when they were young. Because if your child is not reasoning with you after several attempts, then that means there is something wrong that you did 5 years ago. Now, if you did shout and scream and yell at your kids a lot when they were young, then now is the time that you make up for it. And how do you make up for it? You don't shout at them at all. For the next 6 to 8 months, reason with them, try to explain things to them in a more polite way, in a more direct way, right? But you do not shout at them, you do not scream at them, you do not get frustrated with them, you do not get angry or irritated with them. This would be very important for you to make up for the times that you had actually screamed and shouted at your child. And that would really help, put things back after all these fit of rages that your child gets into. So I think that's it. And if your child is beyond your control, if after several reasonable attempts to get them to calm down and listen to you, they don't listen to you, then obviously the best thing is to get professional help. See a counselor and talk to them about it. And that's it. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you on Friday with the next video. Thank you. Cheers.